What's up everyone, TerraQuake here, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And well, as you can tell by the title, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm just gonna be showing you guys how I personally make my layouts for all of my Pokemon series. The reason I'm making this video is because I've had a couple of people ask me, oh, how do you make your layouts? And usually I just say, I use something called Photopea. But obviously just giving you guys the program that I use probably doesn't help you too much. So I'm gonna be giving you guys my tutorial. It's probably not the best thing in the world. I probably don't make my layouts like the easiest or best way I could, but it's just how I do it, and if you guys want to copy me, then that is all good. So yeah, I'm gonna be showing you guys how you can turn, a blank Photopea screen like this, or well, we're not even in the screen yet, but how you can turn it into something like this. And this is the current layout that I'm using for my Pokemon Black Extreme Randomizer, which, shameless plug, be sure to check it out. But yeah, this is kind of just going to be a rough sketch of this. I'm not going to copy it one-to-one because this is just a tutorial, but I will go ahead and show you guys the basics, and then, you can take it from there. But what you first want to do is just start with a brand new project. I'm not really gonna bother titling this anything, and really, just make sure your width is 1280 and your height is 720. That's the big thing. And then I always do a transparent background. Honestly, I don't really know if that matters, but I just use it for all of my layouts because what the heck. So yeah, now we are really in it, and we are going to get going by first opening up any sort of background you want. I'm probably just going to use the one I used here because again, I am just kind of recreating this one roughly. But yeah, usually for my background image, I just search up a cool colored background. Usually the color has something to do with the game I'm playing. So, for Pokemon Black, I did kind of a blackish, grayish background. And, I think it looks nice. And, not all of my backgrounds have to do with Pokemon. You can see here, this is just a plain image, but it can really be whatever you want. So once you go into your web and save an image into your folders, what you want to do is just hit File, hit Open, and Place. Alright, so now that I have my background in place, the first thing I always do is just start with the main screen. Now, for Pokemon Black, of course, it's two screens because it's a DS, so I've got the bigger screen where all the action happens, and then the bottom screen, if you're playing, one of the older Pokemon games on the GBA or something, then you're only going to need one big screen, and usually it's a bit more rectangular, but this is, for a DS emulator, so I am going to make it a little bit more square, like I did in the final product. So you're going to come down to this rectangle tool. As you can see, it is called rectangle. You can change it to like an oval, a line, a parametric shape, or a custom shape, but I always just use the rectangle, and I just try my best to make it, a square. Again, this isn't gonna be super accurate. Usually I'd take more time to try and get it perfectly, but I mean, that looks good enough. Again, not gonna be perfect, but I will leave it at that for now. Alright, so now that I have it there, I usually try to position it because, I'm an organized guy. I like to keep it right in the middle, so I make sure that, there's the same amount of length here as there is over here, just so it looks nice. And the way I do that probably isn't the best way. It's kind of tedious, but I take the zoom tool down here, I just zoom in, and then I take, once we get into the pixels, I take this little tool up here, what's it called, the rectangle select, and I just drag it all the way to the edge to see how many pixels there are on this side, and then I do it on the other side. Again, this probably isn't the best way, but it's just the way I'm used to. So here we go, that side's 409. Then I just go into edit, step backward, then you can go back to the zoom tool to hit fit the area, and then we go to this side. I'm assuming this is not going to be 409, I just kind of guesstimated, but again, it's not going to be exact. So yeah, I just line it up right there, drag it all the way over to the right until we reach the edge, and it looks like it is at 383. So yeah, a little off, but that is okay. Again, I'm just showing this for a tutorial. It's definitely not going to be perfect. So anyways, now that you have your main box, you're probably wondering, how do I get it to look like this? Well, first I start by making a stroke, and you can double click on the layer over here. So I double clicked on shape 1, and I usually drag this to the top left just to get it out of the way. I hit stroke, And, you know, I'll make it the grayish color that it is in the final layout. But there we go, I drag it to gray, and you can, of course, make it any color you want. And then I usually do about 8 or 10 pixels. And for my preference, I like it on the inside. It gives it more of a clear-cut edge and stuff. It's not really rounded out. So now that we have the stroke in place, what you're going to want to do is now you really do have to use the zoom tool, and you're gonna zoom all the way in, not to where you can see the pixels. I mean, you could do that, but I usually don't. Then you go back to that rectangle select, and you just try to line it up right in the corner. This might take a little bit. Again, it's probably, you know, I probably don't do this the best way possible, but it looks like, is that good? There we go, I think that's good. There we go. Right from the corner, and I'm just gonna drag that and basically, you know, cover the entire area of red. So we're at the bottom, let's come over to this corner, and that looks about good right there. So now we have, you know, this little black and white line sort of outlining what we just made. So you wanna right click the shape one, hit rasterize, and now we can go back to fit the area, take the eraser tool, and this looks pretty small, so we're gonna make it, I think, like 200 is what I usually do. I don't know. Let's see how that looks. Oh, yeah, 200 is definitely good enough. And now you can erase all of that, you know, super bright redness out of the picture without erasing the stroke that you made. And there we go. So now, already, this square looks like what we have there. Of course, you know, it's a different color and stuff. Another thing is, if you want to make it look a bit better, I actually do a gradient as opposed to just one solid color. So you can see it's more black up here and a bit more gray down there. In order to do that, you just go back to your layer style, go to gradient overlay, and again, you can just kind of do it however you want. So you have one color over here. We'll make this black, and then I'll make this color over here like a bit more grayish, light gray. And let's get rid of, let's get rid of the stroke, and there we go. Oh, I'm sorry, you know what? I did this backwards. You can actually just do it from in here. Where is it? Right there. There we go. Now you got the real gradient for your stroke. You don't have to go to gradient overlay. You can do it from within there. So let me just do that real quick again. And right now it's going horizontally, as you can see. So you can just change the angle. I'm pretty sure, 90 does it. There you go. So now we have, you know, black that fades into gray. It just looks a bit cooler, a bit more professional, you know. So anyways, you have your main screen now, and I moved it up a little bit because I wanted to leave some space down here. And we're basically just going to do the same thing for the smaller screen. Again, if you're playing, you know, something on the GBA that only has one screen, then it'd be a bit more rectangular, and of course you'd only have one big screen. But yeah, we're just going to do the same exact thing, make a screen a little smaller. I don't usually make my bottom screen as big as the top screen because, again, more of the focus when you're playing Pokemon is on the top screen. So I'm going to do about there. Looks good. Whatever, we'll stick with that. And as you can see, I basically just repeated the steps that I did for the first screen. And now I have myself a bottom screen. So, oops, I didn't do that. We'll take a step backwards. Just want to click it to get it away. And now we will move it up, and I'm going to move it to, again, I don't really know. We'll just say right there is good enough, you know. So now you have your top and bottom screen. Again, my bottom screen on this one looks a little bit smaller than the one here. And of course, you can make it whatever color you want. But my next step that I usually do is making the little squares for where your team members will go. And to do that, it is once again just very similar to making these. You're not really gonna have to do much erasing though, but you know, I try to look for a good size. I make it a little bit of a rectangle, usually like that will do. That's a pretty good size. Again, you can make it squares or whatever you really want. There's also, of course, the ellipse tool if you want to make it like a circle or an oval. It's up to your preference. And all you really have to do with these is just change the color if you want to. I mean, we could leave it as red, but usually, as you can see over here, I like to do a color that kind of pops out as opposed to the background and all the other things on the layout. And of course, your team members will be like covering these up anyway, so you know, you won't see the color all the time. But for our gradient overlay, I'm gonna just do some sort of blue, and we'll do like a yellow maybe. I think that would look pretty cool. So there we go, and yeah, now we have a nice yellow and blue gradient overlay. And again, I'm not going to be exact with this, but if I was actually making a layout, I would line this up with the corner up there, make sure they're like the same distance from the top of the screen. It's just kind of my OCD, honestly. I know not everyone's going to want to do this, but yeah, I try to make sure there's the same amount of distance in between the left edge of the background and the little left edge of the square. So, right there looks fine. And now you don't have to create 5 separate boxes. All you have to do is just go to duplicate layer, and now you have another layer. And then you go back, duplicate layer, and boom, you've got 3. And then you just do it 3 more times, and there you go. You have all 6 boxes for your team members. And again, I would line these up and everything. I guess I can go ahead and show you me like lining up one of them, just to show you how I do it. So we'll take the first one, for example, and I would use the zoom tool to zoom all the way in, then take the little rectangle thing and measure the pixels, so that's 98. And now on the other side, this is 101, so pretty close. It's not going to be exact, it's going to be 1 pixel off, but that's usually close enough. Some things on my layouts are like a pixel off, so I'm sorry if you thought I was perfect. I'm not perfect. But anyways, now we are going to go to the second one and just move it to where it is lined up with the edge of the first box. So I just take this, measure it, and I can see it's still 1 off. So I think I just need to move it left once. Now if we measure it, boom, we know that they're lined up. And once again, I would just do that for all 6 boxes. Again, it's a little tedious, but it's just the way I do it. Alright, so the next thing I do is my death counter, and then for this layout, as you can see, I have my Instagram logo. This can be anything. It could be Twitter, Instagram, whatever you really want. You can even add both. This is just how I did it for this layout. So once again, we're just going to make another little shape down here, and it's just going to be a small rectangle, kind of long. I think that'll do right there. And another thing that I probably should have showed you earlier is you can always just right click one of these earlier shapes. So I'll take shape 2, for example, go to layer style, hit copy, and then go back up to your new shape, go to layer style, hit paste, and bam, it automatically pastes on that gray and black gradient. So now I'm doing the same thing that I did before, just taking the little rectangle select tool, outlining the area in red, then I right click, rasterize, head back to fit the area, take the eraser, and bam, now we have our nice little box. And once again, this one over here is the same shape as this one, so I just come over here, duplicate layer, and boom, we can move it right over there. So now we have our 2 boxes. Now, as you can see, I have a little bit of a white background to make the text pop out a bit more, and that's just something I found on the web, which I guess I can go ahead and show you guys here in just a second. So as you can see, I just searched up a gray transparent box, went to images, and any of these will do, honestly. This one looks pretty similar to the one that I use, which you guys will see in just a second. So here's the one that I use. Again, you can see it's a little bit transparent, which is kind of what I like. It doesn't have to be completely opaque. And now it's time to sort of resize this thing to where it'll fit inside that box. So what you want to do with Photopea is hold down Shift, then click and drag in the corner, because I'll go ahead and show you here. I guess it doesn't really matter since we're just fitting this into a box, but if you had like an image or something that you didn't want to mess up, if you don't hit Shift, it's gonna screw around with the dimensions. So yeah, now just drag it down. That looks small enough. We get it in here, that's actually way too small. So we're just gonna stretch it out until they line up with the outline of the box. Alright, so there we go. I have fitted it to that box, and once again, you don't have to bother doing it for the second box, because you can just duplicate the layer, and you can use the arrow keys if you don't want to have to like reposition it. That might take a second, but honestly, using the arrow keys is also really slow. So just take a second to try and line it back up in there. And it is as easy as that. So as you can see in the complete layout, I did change the color to white. I'm actually going to zoom in to show you guys that it actually isn't transparent. This one I didn't. Sometimes I do use it. I think my Pokemon Pearl randomized Cheslock, which is the last completed Nuzlocke series that we have done here on the channel. I used transparent boxes. It's just kind of up to you. For the tutorial, I'm gonna just stick with these. Anyways, now I'm just gonna adjust the color. Again, I kind of want it to be a pretty solid background to, you know, make sure the text stands out. So I'm gonna do similar to what I did in the final product and just make it a very light gray. I think that's good right there. And actually now you can barely even see through. So again, that's not really a bad thing. Of course, you can always just use something that is opaque if you want. But all I'm gonna do is just copy the layer style and paste it onto the other one. And boom, now they look exactly alike. So in order to add your Instagram or Twitter or whatever kind of social media you want to add, I would just search up Instagram logo transparent or Twitter logo transparent. I think this is the one that I use, or this one. It's one of these two. I don't really know. So here we have it opened up now. And once again, I'm just going to shift and drag it in to make it, you know, a size that fits the box. Again, I would make sure that this is like lined up with the edges, it's all even and stuff, but once again, this is just a rough sketch, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I'm going to change it to a color that stands out from the white and the blackness of the outline and stuff. So I think a nice light blue, maybe that's a bit too bright. Yeah, dark blue is a lot better, I'd say. And I think that's what that's what I used here. So I tried my best to line it up, and now we can add in our text for, you know, whatever username your Instagram account is. Of course, mine is Terraquake. So you're just going to head over to the type tool, and you're going to click anywhere you want. And I will just type in Terraquake, and it's actually already on the font that I used. But if you ever want to change the font, just highlight it, head up here. And Photopea actually has a pretty wide variety of fonts, as you can see. I downloaded this one myself, Fighting Spirit TBS. But yeah, look at all these fonts that you can use. And almost all of these are provided by Photopea. If you ever wanted to get your own font, you can always just download one off the web and hit load font and bring it into there. But now that we have the text, we can drag it in here, and of course it looks a little small, so I'm going to resize it just a bit. There we go, that looks a lot better. And now, so that it matches the Instagram logo, I'm just gonna copy the Instagram logo's layer style and paste it onto the text. And again, it's not perfectly aligned, but that looks pretty good right there, honestly. So in order to track my deaths in a Nuzlocke, of course you might not be doing a Nuzlocke, so you might not have this, but I usually use a little skull icon to let people know how many deaths I have throughout the series. So for these, I usually just search up something like cartoon skull logo transparent. And just in case you don't know what transparent means, it just, you know, makes sure that there's no white background in an image. It's just, you know, the picture. So for example, you're not going to get the white square in the background for this skull. And funny enough, this is the skull that I'm using in the current layout, as you can see. So now we have that opened up. I'm just going to shrink it a little bit. Let me do it a little bit more. We'll see how that looks compared to the rectangle. Yeah, we'll make it a tad bit smaller. And there we go. That's a pretty good size, I'd say. So I'm just using the arrow keys to try and line it up the best that I can. And once again, I'm just going to go over to layer style and hit paste. So now it's the same color as that. And now you can really use any symbol you want, and you don't even have to use a symbol. But for example, here I used an equal sign, so I put the skull equals the number, and I actually put the number when I'm editing the video, because obviously it's something that's going to be changing, so I don't want it just a part of the layout. You can also use like an X, and again, you don't even have to use any sort of symbol next to the number. For this one, I'll just use an equal sign. Alright, so here is that equal sign, and once again, we're just going to shift click to shrink it down and put it in here. I realized I did make this rectangle probably too long. As you can see, these ones are a bit shorter and a little taller, but that's a-okay. So I'm actually just going to reposition the skull more towards the middle. I think that'll make it look better. It's closer towards the equal sign, which we can put right about there or so. And I'm just going to layer style and paste, so now it's the same color. And that's really all you have to do for the death counter, because again, I add the number in my editor, because that is something that is going to be changing throughout the series. So now we get to probably the toughest part, in my opinion, of making a layout, and that is adding the badges. So as you can see in the final product here, I basically just copied one of these boxes and this little the white transparent box here and just pasted them and made them a little bigger. So I think I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So here we go. I have one of these boxes. I'm just gonna go to the transformation controls and stretch it out a lot and maybe make it a little taller. And of course, if this was my real layout, I would make sure it's aligned up with this big box, and I would make sure the smaller box is like right in the middle, you know, even with it. But this is just a rough sketch. So now I have duplicated the white box here, and I'm just gonna line it up to the insides of the outline. Alright, so now it's actually time to add the badges, and to find those and save them as an image, I just search up something like Trio Badge, Pokemon, or Basic Badge, whichever one it is. And I think I used either this one or this one for this layout here. But you can really choose anything you want. At least in my case, I'd recommend doing like, you know, a vertical one. It's actually funny, the Unova badges, they're all kind of vertical. Not every single badge in the Pokemon series, it looks like this, of course, but yeah, that's why I went with one of these. So we have the badge open, and I'm just gonna shrink it down and try and, you know, put it somewhere. It's kind of hard to tell because here is where it gets tough if, you know, you're an organizer like me, because I like to have all of my badges evenly spaced out along this rectangle. So I want, you know, my first badge to be the same space away from the outer edge here. Then the 8th badge is away from the outer line here. And this process is very tedious. That's why I said it's probably the hardest part when I make these layouts. And there might be a better way of doing it. It's just the way that I know how to do it, so I just stick with it because I'm used to it. But if we look at this one, it seems like I was able to do it pretty well. I'm pretty sure I measured up all the pixels and they look just about right. So yeah, that's why it looks pretty good here. But you know, that's what you would want to do when you're making your layout. So I'm just gonna spread it out from the edge a little bit. And now I have opened up the basic badge, and I try to make it, you know, about the same size as the trio badge in terms of height. This one, I think I made it a bit too small. I don't know, I'm just estimating here again. If I was doing this for real, I would actually measure it out and make sure they line up, but that's close enough. And yeah, I would just try to space it out and make it look as good as possible. And then once I had all 8 gym badges, so, you know, I repeat this process for the next 6 badges, then that's when I would really make sure all of them are lined up, you know, they're the same distance away from the top of the rectangle to the bottom. And then, you know, it gets a little tough and tedious trying to make them the same distance away from each other. So I'm not going to go through all 8, but that is how I would do it. Of course, you're not going to have all 8 gym badges right as you begin the game, so in order to, you know, let people know when I have a gym badge or how many I have, what I do is I double click, go into the layer style, go into color overlay, and just make it black. And I would make all 8 of them black to start the series. And then as I progressively go on, I would just come in here, do color overlay, get rid of it, and then I would save a brand new layout just so every time I'm in the editor, I don't have to add the gym badge onto the layout. I only do that in the episode that we get the gym badge. So yeah, I'm looking at this layout now, and again, you know, it's not lined up. Everything looks a little wonky, but that is basically how I do it. It's not, you know, super crazy or anything. It takes a little while. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but this is just my way of making Pokemon layouts. And when you are done, all you would do is first and foremost, I would save as a PSD. What a PSD does is it lets you open up this exact stuff even if you've X'd out and everything. Because if you just go to export as and save it as an image, then you're only going to be able to open it up as an image. You won't be able to open it up like and edit it like you would be able to if you saved it as a PSD. So that's what I would do first. But then once you're ready to export, I recommend PNG. That just works best. You go to PNG, make sure the quality is 100%, and you really don't have to do anything. You can just save it and it'll automatically save into your downloads. So let's just take one more look at this thing. We'll zoom out a little bit, and you know, again, just a rough sketch, but I kind of just wanted to show you guys how I do my Pokemon layouts. Once again, you can add whatever you want. You know, this one was a little different. since I'm using a DS game. But if you had like a GBA game and you only had one big screen, and I think I've done it this way before, I would maybe recommend putting the badges like along the side of it. I think looks pretty nice, but because we had two screens, I thought putting the badges in between the screens would look pretty cool. And again, you don't have to have a death counter. You can have a Twitter logo here. You can have Twitter, Instagram, and whatever else you want. You can really just add your own little twist to it. I used to do question of the days, which I would usually just kind of put along the top or put along the bottom, but I kind of stopped doing those. So yeah, this was just kind of me showing you guys the basics. You can experiment it with all you want. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if there's any other little tutorials that you guys want to see. But again, that's all I've got. So have a great rest of your day. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, hit that bell. And until next time, deuces.